Who are the best cornerbacks in the NFL today? What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, back with another NFL rankings video. In this video, my top 20 cornerbacks in the NFL entering the 2022 NFL season. The cornerback position, in my opinion, is the most physically demanding and difficult position to play in the NFL today, and these are the top 20. Before I give you my 20, make sure that you do spike the like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV NFL rankings just like this. Also, hop in the comment section below and let me know which corner you believe stands above the rest and where you put your favorite corner in the NFL today. BLVers, it is now July, which means that fantasy football season is here. And if you want to be prepared for your fantasy football draft, Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play and prepare. Best Ball is the best format to prepare in. Why? Well, you have 18 rounds to prepare for your real draft. That means a deeper draft. That means more players. That means scouting more names and getting used to drafting different players in different lineups. On Underdog Fantasy, the sharpest minds are playing. It's the best, most active, and relevant ADP, average draft position. If you want to sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make sure to check out the description. The link is there, as well as in the pinned comment at the top of the comment section. Use the code BLV, and Underdog Fantasy will double your first deposit up to $100. Double your first deposit. Underdog Fantasy, guys, I'm telling you, it's a ton of fun, and it's also an excellent way to prepare for your fantasy drafts this summer. Underdog Fantasy, use the code BLV. Link is in the description. Now, let's rank some corners. Kicking off my top 20 cornerbacks in the NFL today at number 20, a breakout corner on the breakout defense of last season. 20 is Kristian Fulton. Kristian Fulton is going to be a surprise name to a lot of people, and many of you probably don't even know who he is. He's a very young cornerback, but he's also very good. He's the number one corner for the Tennessee Titans. Very smart, very good reading and reacting to the football in zone coverage, playing off, seeing it, reacting to the football, and making plays, forcing incompletions, and stopping wide receivers for negative plays. Kristian Fulton is just that guy for the Tennessee Titans, the guy that matches up with the number one receiver on the perimeter of this defense, and it was one of the best defenses in the NFL. He also finished with a top 25 coverage grade last season, and I believe he's only getting better at a very young age. Fulton is legit. He's my number 20. My number 19 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is the Miami Dolphins, Byron Jones. Byron Jones of the Dolphins is one of the game's biggest and best big man-to-man corners. If you're asking a corner with the length and the size and the speed combination to match up with some of the big, fast receivers in the NFL, Byron Jones is going to be one of your first picks. He is really asked to play a ton of man coverage, a ton of aggressive press coverage where he's playing on an island a ton in Miami. Miami loves to blitz. They love to send more than you can block. And because of that, Byron Jones is going to give up plays. It's going to happen. But he's also going to allow his defense to get to the quarterback and create some havoc and create some turnovers because of what he can do, jamming with his length at the line of scrimmage and also making plays while the ball is in the air. Byron Jones is very, very good. I think he is overshadowed by his counterpart on the other side, but he continues to flirt with this top 20 every single season over the past 3 to 4 years. Byron Jones is a good football player, just not quite consistent enough in that system to call him great. My number 18 cornerback entering the 2022 NFL season is JAMEL Dean of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. JAMEL Dean is arguably the most underrated and disrespected cornerback in the NFL today. JAMEL Dean has been really awesome over the last 2 seasons, and his coverage stats suggest that he is a top 10 player at this position. But I understand that I have to take into account his stats and his production with what I see on the field, as well as the scheme and what they ask him to do. And JAMEL Dean, he doesn't get beat very often. He doesn't give up very much. But in the system he plays, he's also not asked to do as much as other corners. He plays a lot of zone coverage. He oftentimes does not play on an island by himself. When he does, sometimes he can be exposed against the best receivers in the NFL. Not the average receiver. He'll lock him down. JAMEL Dean has been excellent at covering fast receivers who can run vertical. He's been excellent at covering big receivers who can win jump balls. He has only really struggled with the quicker guys in the NFL because he is very fast and he's very tall, but he's not exactly horizontally the most sound. And that's a problem for a lot of the Bucs corners I have noticed. But in zone coverage, Dean does a very good job. And he holds down one side of the field for the Tampa Bay Bucs. I would stop disrespecting JAMEL Dean, because it just seems like this guy keeps getting better. And he has all the physical tools to be one of the best corners in the NFL, and I wouldn't be surprised if he took another leap in 2022. I'd just like to see him play a little bit more man coverage. Todd Bowles allow him to become that upper echelon corner. I want to see if he can do it, because I think he can. My number 17 cornerback in the NFL today is CHARVARIUS Ward of the San Francisco 49ers. Formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be interesting to see how CHARVARIUS Ward plays within the 49er defense. The 49ers at the beginning of last year were attempting to play more man coverage under DeMeco Ryans. It just didn't work out because they didn't have the coverage talent. They bring in CHARVARIUS Ward. They have Emmanuel Mosley. There is some talent here in this secondary where you could see them mixing up more man with the lots of zone coverage that they've played in the recent history. I believe that CHARVARIUS Ward gives them that ability. He is extremely good in press coverage, extremely good at rerouting receivers, extremely good at pushing them and being physical with them and making them fight for every yard and making them fight off the line of scrimmage. He is very strong off the line, very good in press, and pretty good at sticking with just about any number 1 receiver in the NFL. He had his issues with Ja'Marr Chase, but it was not like he was in his hip pocket every single play. He just couldn't make the plays on the ball that Ja'Marr Chase could make. And other than the Ja'Marr Chase matchup, this guy has been superb as a number 1 corner. He has matched up with every number 1 receiver in the biggest of games, in the biggest moments for the Chiefs defense. And I do believe that the Chiefs defense is going to miss him because he allowed them to play the heavy, aggressive man coverage on the outside that Spagnuolo desperately wanted to play. And in this NFL, you need to be able to play aggressive, heavy man coverage. CHARVARIUS Ward is an extremely underrated player for his skill set of being tall, long, fast, and pretty savvy at the line of scrimmage. I like him a lot. My number 16 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is ADOREE Jackson of the New York Giants. ADOREE Jackson had a very quiet, awesome season last year for the New York Giants, basically surpassing James Bradberry as the best corner on the New York Giants. I felt like ADOREE Jackson showcased what he truly can be. I've always felt like ADOREE Jackson has had all the tools to be that legit number 1 lockdown guy, and he was pretty close to that last year in both man and zone coverage. The thing about ADOREE Jackson is he has now grown into a player who is more savvy and smart in zone, but he's always had the tools, the speed, the size to be able to play man coverage. And he's always had that man coverage ability What has really lacked has been his ball skills. But I feel like he took his game to the next level last year. And the only thing that's really missing with Adoree Jackson is consistency in terms of staying on the field. I think he's going to be able to prove that he can do that this year. And without James Bradberry there, he will definitely be asked to take on more difficult matchups. But I think he has all the tools and physical tools to be able to do it. My number 15 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is Casey Hayward, now of the Atlanta Falcons. Casey Hayward is the ageless wonder. This guy just performs in every situation, scheme, and every season. Casey Hayward performs. He is very consistent, very reliable, and last year, after a down year in 2020, he pops back up with a phenomenal year in 2021 with the Las Vegas Raiders. Absolutely phenomenal in that cover 3 system and in zone coverage. When Casey Hayward is allowed to look at the quarterback, eyes on the quarterback, react and make plays, he is one of the best corners in the NFL. He is a high IQ corner. He is not physically that special, especially now. He is not that fast anymore. He's really never been that big, but he is extremely smart. He's extremely savvy, and he knows how to read routes and just how to perform in his assignment extremely well. One of the best year after year after year. I feel like Casey Hayward deserves all the respect, especially at the corner position, a position where it can be up and down from year to year. But Casey Hayward has been about as consistent as it gets. My number 14 cornerback in the NFL today, entering 2022, is Trevon Diggs of the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know some people are going to say, whoa, Nelly, what is this? Mitch, Trevon Diggs, he had like 1,500 interceptions last year. How is he in 14th? And there's going to be some people that say Trevon Diggs shouldn't even be on this list. He gave up so many yards. He gave the most yards in the NFL. So I'm trying to find some sort of happy medium. I personally am a person who prefers corners to just shut people down. I don't like giving up yards. I don't like giving up touchdowns. I don't like giving up big plays. Keep everything in front of you. That's how I feel. But interceptions are phenomenal. They're great. But I've always kind of leaned towards the shutdown corner, personally. But there is a place for a playmaker. There is a place for a big play guy. And even though Trevon Diggs was pretty come and go and pretty suspect at times and would give up plays and would gamble, he also made a ton of plays. He was a difference maker. He elevated his defense. And that's why he's at number 14. It's the happy medium for me. The perfect spot where I see both arguments. My number 13 cornerback entering 2022 is Tampa Bay's Carlton Davis. The thing I love about Carlton Davis is how he is so versatile. I feel like Davis is really good in zone coverage, but also has all the skills in the world to thrive in man. He's very good in press. He's very physical, one of the most physical corners in the NFL. He is pretty darn good vertically at staying with receivers as long as they're not the fastest of the fast. And he's pretty big to stay with those thicker, bigger jump ball receivers as well. Carlton Davis is a very savvy guy and a very tough corner. I feel like zone or man, no matter the game plan, he can pull it off. No matter the receiver, it feels like Tampa Bay just puts him on everybody. It doesn't matter if it's a good or a bad matchup. They just say, hey, Carlton Davis, you're playing this guy because you are our dude. And I respect that a ton. Because there are not a lot of teams that trust their number one corner to just take on the number one receiver every week, no matter where that receiver plays. Slot, left, right, doesn't really matter. Hey, a tight end, sure. Carlton Davis will do it. And oftentimes, he's successful. Early last year, his best season yet. He was playing phenomenal football at that point. He was forcing a ton of incompletions. This is a guy that gets his hands on the football. Now, not a lot of interceptions. He dropped a lot of interceptions last year. but he does bat down a lot of passes, get in the way of a lot of passes, baits quarterbacks into a lot of bad throws. He is very good at that. Over the last 3 years, he's been excellent. Carlton Davis can still get better. I feel like in 2022, along with Jamel Dean, he could be at his best, which is a scary thought for quarterbacks. My number 12 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is STEPHON Gilmore of the Indianapolis Colts. Gilmore proved once again that he is still really good at football with the Carolina Panthers last season. I was excited to see him with J.C. Jackson in New England. It didn't work out, but he goes to Carolina. Immediate impact. That's what Gilmore does. He gets interceptions, he makes plays on the football, and he elevates a defense and a secondary. And Gilmore, what really pops off the screen for me nowadays is not necessarily his physical ability. It's not really his speed. It's not even really his quickness or his break on the football. It's his smarts. It's his intelligence. It's his game study. Just the way that he understands offenses. What's coming, how to jump it, where to be, what an offense wants to do, where a quarterback wants to go with the ball, how a receiver breaks off certain routes, and to be able to play that correctly. He is so savvy, so smart, extremely high IQ. This is why he's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, and will one day get there. He's just so good, and I feel like elevated his game in zone coverage over the last couple of seasons. He's getting better and better in zone coverage, where it felt like early in his career he was mostly a man guy, but he's gotten a lot better in zone. And I feel like in Indianapolis, he's going to prove why he's still really good at football. I feel like he's going to sprinkle in enough man coverage to elevate this secondary of the Colts to take on a number one receiver, but he's also going to thrive in zone because of that intelligence and because of how he reads the game and how he studies the game. Gilmore is incredible still. I wish he was still on my team, but Colts fans, have fun with him. I still think he is really good. My number 11 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is Darius Slay of the Philadelphia Eagles. Darius Slay, another older, savvy, high IQ cornerback. Slay was absolutely phenomenal for the Philadelphia Eagles. And there are just games with Darius Slay where he takes over. He locks a guy down. He has multiple interceptions. And he is the star of the game. And that's very rare to achieve as a corner at his age. But he still does it, even in Philadelphia, where they ask him to play a ton of zone coverage, a ton of off coverage. But he's so good at breaking on the football. He's so good at sitting on routes. He is so smart. And Darius Slay has always been one of the best ball hawks in the NFL. His ability in the air is one of the best still in the NFL to play the football. Slay is still awesome. The only real time I saw him exposed last year was against Mike Evans. That is really it. And a lot of that was playing some man because they couldn't play zone against Tom Brady. But in zone, Slay is still one of the best there is. At number 11. Entering the top 10 cornerbacks in the NFL today, Patrick Surtain of the Denver Broncos. The second Patrick Surtain to come to the NFL is technically sound in a way that we do not see very often from a young rookie cornerback, and it makes all the sense in the world. His father was one of the best corners we have seen in recent history, and that was passed down to this kid. He is absolutely a phenomenal technician in terms of the corner position, both with his hands and with his feet, and how he marries that at the corner position to match receivers in man and also react in zone. Surtain has all the skills, physically and mentally, to be one of the best corners in the NFL today and in the future. He's at number 10 because he was really good as a rookie, playing as that number 1 for the Broncos, and he's about to take off. Like, this is just the beginning for this kid. He's really good. My number 9 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is Marlon Humphrey of the Baltimore Ravens. Marlon Humphrey was a very difficult corner to rank on this list because I love his versatility. He is one of the most versatile DBs in the NFL, not only through where he can play, but also how he can play. So first, with where he can play on the outside, he can play in the slot. And how he can play finesse, or he can play power. He can play physical, or he can play stylish. Marlon Humphrey can combine playmaking ability of punching the ball out, picking a pass off, making a very strong tackle. He can do pretty much everything. And Marlon Humphrey elevates the Ravens defense by being where they need him to be. One week it might be covering the number 1 receiver on the outside all game. One week it might be playing in the slot versus a great slot receiver. It's wherever they need him to be, and he'll perform. Now, Marlon Humphrey was not as good last year in coverage, and he did get exposed against some of the best receivers in the NFL last year. Jamar Chase comes to mind. But he was also injured quite a bit, so I also take that into account. He wasn't nearly the playmaker he was a couple seasons ago, but then you remind yourself of what he's capable of. I think he had 8 forced fumbles 2 years ago. That's insane for a corner. That's insane for anybody. So Marlon Humphrey is an excellent all-around football player, and certainly one of the best corners in the NFL today, both as a cover guy and as a playmaker. My number 8 corner in the NFL entering 2022 is Denzel Ward of the Cleveland Browns. Denzel Ward to me is the silent killer of the corner position. You don't really hear about him. He's not really a big time playmaker. He doesn't have a ton of picks or forced fumbles or turnovers, but he rarely gets beat. He rarely gives up a big game to anybody. He can play in any system, any scheme. Mostly been playing a ton of zone in Cleveland, but if you ask him to play man, I'm sure he could do that. He's got great speed, and I feel like he is never outmatched with any matchup. He's not outmatched with any tall receiver, big receiver. He's not outmatched with any fast receiver. Denzel Ward is a complete outside corner, and his stats back it up. He is one of the best in the game. I just wish they asked him to do a little bit more, to be honest. My number 7 cornerback in the NFL right now is Marshon Lattimore of the New Orleans Saints. Now, with Denzel Ward, I just said about how he's the silent killer and how I wish they asked him to do more. Now, this is the opposite, okay? Marshon Lattimore is not silent. He's going to let you know. And then on top of that, Marshon Lattimore is asked to do absolutely everything for this defense. And what I mean by that is, okay, Marshon Lattimore, you're going to take this receiver this week. There's going to be nobody behind you the whole game, and you're just going to take that guy, okay? The rest of the defense is going to do all the crazy stuff that they do, dropping this guy and that guy and this guy and the D tackle 8 yards, and this guy's going to blitz off the edge. But Marshon, you're just going to play man against Mike Evans for the whole game, and you're not going to allow a single catch. So let you just do that the whole time, okay? And that's basically Marshon Lattimore for you. I mean, he's really physical. He is very inconsistent because of the role he is asked to play. He can be awesome. He can be shut down. He can be incredible. He can be the best corner in the league one week. And then the next week, he'll give up a 2-touchdown game. And you'll be like, oh, that wasn't good Lattimore. And it's just because he's asked to do so much. He's asked to play an unreasonable role for any player. It's just really difficult. Only few players can do that really consistently. So MARSHON LATTIMORE is really, really good, especially when it comes to press man coverage and press coverage in any degree. He's also got deceptive speed, and he's also deceptively strong, physical, big hands, big arms. Just a big corner. And I really like his style because he sets the tempo of his secondary. My number 6 cornerback in the NFL today is Xavier Howard of the Miami Dolphins. Howard quietly had an awesome season this year. I feel like we've come to the point with him where we just expect it. There were seasons in the past where he rather had 10 picks or he didn't, and that was the difference between him being amazing and a top 5 corner or just not even in the top 20. And there was a certain point there in his career. But now we have gotten past that, and now we are kind of just accepting that Howard is really, really good, period. And the thing that I love about Howard is love his style, love his physical press ability and man coverage, but also love how he can combine that with great ball skills. That's what impresses me the most. It's really something if you can get a lot of picks in zone, but when you're somebody like Howard who consistently gets picks in man, that is different. That is incredible because you're not looking at the quarterback. You are playing the receiver, and you are bullying him and you're dominating him in such a fashion that you can make a play on the football. You can read the play while covering somebody at full speed. It's incredible. Howard is really good. And I feel like he is really in his prime because he's proving to you that he can be consistent now on top of being a great playmaker. Entering the top 5 corners in the NFL today. At number 5, one of the biggest breakouts of 2021. That is AJ Terrell of the Atlanta Falcons. Typically, I am not one to crown a corner right away because corner is a very difficult position to play and stay consistent at. So I want to reward those who stay consistent. But AJ Terrell, I loved him coming out of the draft. He was a high priority pick, and he proved to me last year that he can do just about everything. First off, his yards per snap allowed last year, according to Pro Football Focus, was the second best of all time, only behind Asamoah and Asante Samuel, who are tied for first. Second, he did it in man and zone. Both. It wasn't like he was just playing zone. It wasn't just like he was playing just man. He was shutting people down in zone one week and in man the other. And that is Dean Pease defense for you. You're going to play some man, you're going to play some zone. Whatever is best in that week, in that game plan. And he shut down some of the game's best receivers doing so last year. Terrell has all the physical ability. The size, the speed, all of it. He has it all. He also has the mental discipline. You can tell he's very smart, the way he reads the play. And I feel he's just coming on the scene, but he's going to be a top 5 corner for a while. The number 4 corner in the NFL today is Tre'Davious White of the Buffalo Bills. Tre'Davious White did not play a ton last year. He got injured, but he's proven to me that he is arguably the best zone cover corner in the NFL, and he can shut an entire side of the field down. It's like a black hole with Tre'Davious White, and the Bills were missing that last year. You go to Tre'Davious White's side of the field, and you're not seeing the football. So with that, Buffalo could scheme around the rest of their secondary. When Tre'Davious White's not there, you can't really do that. You've got to play things evenly. It puts more stress on your linebackers, on your safeties, especially when you play teams like the Chiefs. It matters. So Tre'Davious White is going to really help the Bills next year. And he's still really good at football. Now, I want to see how he comes off the injury, but what I love about him is those zone cover skills, is the read and react skills, is the break on the football, is the smarts, and is the speed and the size. This guy is meant to play in this Sean McDermott defense. Tre'Davious White is my number 4. My number 3 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is J.C. Jackson, aka Just Cover Jackson, aka Mr. INT, now of the Los Angeles Chargers. J.C. Jackson gives the Chargers and Brandon Staley a legitimate shutdown corner. A corner who can play very good press man coverage, but also he is a true fit for zone coverage as well, given that he is arguably the best ball hawk in the sport today, at least when you're talking consistency. Of course, last year, Trevon Diggs was ridiculous, and the only reason that J.C. Jackson didn't get more shine for his interception numbers, because they were insane. But J.C. Jackson has done it over the last 3 to 4 years. Since he's come into the NFL, J.C. Jackson has 19 interceptions in man coverage alone. That is 5 more than second place. He is that good at picking the ball off. You just don't want to throw a jump ball against J.C. Jackson. Like, it is a dumb idea. I've seen it so many times, and I've seen so many people fail. You don't want to do it. He baits you into it, and he is excellent at defending the deep areas of the field. He almost never gives up deep passes. Ever, ever, ever. And usually it's one-on-one. Usually it's playing in cover 1 where he doesn't have the help. And usually it's against the best receiver on the other team. Is he one of the best technicians and absolute shutdown guys you've ever seen? No, but he's a great combination of that player, the physical man-to-man skills, with incredible playmaking. He's almost a combination to me of Asante Samuel and Stephon Gilmore. It's a weird mix. He's not quite as good in man as Gilmore. He's not quite as good in zone as Samuel, but he's somewhere in the middle. And that makes him the number 3 corner in the NFL today. My number 2 cornerback in the NFL today is Jaire Alexander of the Green Bay Packers. Jaire is, in my opinion, if I was picking a corner, I didn't know who the receiver was, to play on the perimeter and shut a receiver down, one-on-one, I would pick Alexander above everybody on this list, above everybody in football. I have never seen Alexander lose a matchup. Alexander has all the tools. He could play in any system, zone, man, doesn't matter. He is tall enough, physical enough, very fast. I feel like deceptively fast, extremely quick. This is where he separates himself. Very quick. He can stay with quick receivers. Quick. A lot of guys can stay with fast receivers. A lot of guys can stay with big receivers. But can you stay with big, fast, and quick receivers? Alexander might be the only guy in the NFL that can do it. That's why I would pick him first to shut somebody down. Now, he does not have the versatility of my number 1. He does not have variety of skills that my number 1 has. But if he stays healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if Alexander is my number 1 corner next year. He needs to stay healthy, though. He is awesome. Like, truly awesome at football. Alexander's my number 2. The number 1 cornerback in the NFL entering 2022 is Jalen Ramsey of the Los Angeles Rams. Jalen Ramsey has to be number 1. Not only was he more available than Alexander a year ago, but there's a couple of reasons why I put him at number 1. First, he is the most feared corner in the NFL. And what I mean by that is, wherever Jalen Ramsey is not, is where that team is going to throw the football. If he's in the slot, playing that position for the Rams where he often is, they're going to try to avoid the middle of the field, which is a big area of the field to avoid. It's a big area of the field to avoid. And it helps weaker safeties, weaker linebackers on the Rams not get exposed as much because Jalen Ramsey is there. He's also very physical. One of the most physical corners in the league, arguably the most. He's a phenomenal tackler. That allows him to play in the slot. He can blitz if you ask him to, although I don't know why you would that much because he's so good in coverage. He can play on the perimeter and play press coverage. He can play on the perimeter and play off coverage. He can play zone. He can play man. He can run with the fastest receivers in the league. He can be big enough and strong enough, which is really a strength for him, to play with the biggest and strongest receivers in the league. He really doesn't struggle with any matchup in particular. He was beat more often last year than I've ever seen him beat, per se. But it's almost like a moment in time when it happens. Nobody really talks about how good Jalen Ramsey is playing because it's expected at this point. But when he gets beat, everybody talks about it. So that's kind of where we're at. But Jalen Ramsey, to me, is the best. He is my number one. And those are my top 20 corners in the NFL. If you enjoyed, don't forget to spike the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to check out Underdog Fantasy to prepare for your fantasy leagues this summer. It's Mitch. Thanks so much. Peace.